Gucci brought the 80s back with Gucci Guilty Absolute. Gucci's a fragrance house, and I'm going to talk baseball terms here. This is a fragrance house in the men's game, at least, that was hitting singles, maybe coming up to the plate and doing a little bunt. They're playing it safe. Finally, they started swinging for the fences recently, and in my personal opinion, this fragrance right here, they hit it right out of the park. Let's get into it. What's going on, YouTube fragrance family? Welcome to another Robes 08 fragrance review. Today I'm going to put my nose on the house of Gucci, part of their Guilty series, and I'm guilty as charged. This is the only one I like from the Gucci Guilty series, and it's called Gucci Guilty Absolute. This is a fragrance review that you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. Gucci Guilty Absolute hit the shelves in 2017. Bottle sizes are the 1.7, the 3-ounce bottle, which is the one you see here, and a 5-ounce bottle. Concentration eau de parfum. Flankers, it is actually a flanker to the original Gucci Guilty, but as far as scent-wise, she's not even close. And that goes to pricing. Retail USD, you're looking at $75 to $125 online. Again, shop around. Discounters finally have this on board, and it is going fairly cheap, so you can get it for almost half the price that it's listed here. Before I get into the meat and potatoes of the fragrance review, as always, I want to thank my partner, FragranceX.com, for Gucci Guilty Absolute. This fragrance is in stock right now at FragranceX.com. Steal of a deal. You can utilize my code, of course, Robes08, and get a sweet 15% off discount on any Gucci fragrance and anything that goes into your shopping bin on FragranceX.com. Now let's get into the review. The nose behind this one, Alberto Mariales. The resume speaks for itself. Alberto hasn't done anything this daring or challenging from what I see. He's known for ADG from Armani. So that kind of talks about basically his resume. That fragrance really speaks volumes of what Alberto's resume looks like. So this is something that not only Gucci, but also Alberto, this is something kind of interesting from both of them. A very, very interesting release from the brand and from the parfumier. Now let's get into what's inside this beautiful bottle here. What does this smell like? Let's take a look at the note breakdown. It starts off with leather and oh, does it ever. In the middle, we got patchouli and cypress. And in the base, we have vetiver. Major notes to this nose right here. This is a leather-based fragrance, in my personal opinion. But every single note that I just mentioned, there's not a lot of them, right? There's only 4. They all make their mark. Funny thing is of course, the new creative director for Gucci and Alberto, basically the dream of the creative director was to get a new patchouli out there, kind of have like a 70s theme, but a new patchouli. And I felt like patchouli was the weakest link in this fragrance. There's a lot being done with the vetiver, the leather, and the cypress, and the patchouli is there. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a central note in this fragrance. Very much a secondary note. So major notes to my nose, basically leather. And if I would have a second in command, it would have to be vetiver in this one, but cypress does do its thing too here. Group, this is an oriental woody fragrance, so great for those Canadian winters. Now, how many sprays and where? Let's take a look at my application. This one, I go 5 sprays, and some of you may say, whoa, that's quite a bit. This fragrance, really, even though it's very powerful up top, it really does, not saying it's a skin scent, but it really does die down quite a bit. So 5 sprays is what I wear mostly with this fragrance. 1 on the chest, of course, 2 on the neck, so here, and then of course I am going to put it right at the end of my shirt here on my arm. And of course, before I do that, I got a little disclaimer, and then we'll hit the hand here. So beautiful introduction. Not for everybody, but that's where this disclaimer comes into play. So before I get into this review, disclaimer is to the haters and lovers of this scent. You may be watching this video and you already hate and love this scent. This, in my personal opinion, this is not your Sauvage, it's not your Bleu de Chanel's, it's not your Issey Miyake Pour Homme, Le Mans, ADGs of the world. These are fragrances that I just named they're top sellers. They've been on store shelves for years. These are fragrances that are here to stay. This fragrance kind of reminds me of a fragrance that, fragrance heads, 5-10 years later are going to go scour on eBay, stuff of legends, and are going to be spending $150 to and upwards of $200-300 sometimes. So this is, kind of like an M7 of your world, right? M7 by YSL wasn't really a top seller, but real fragrance heads that were really into this fragrance game really felt like M7 was a piece of art, and still people are searching for the original M7. People are paying $150 and more. So it's stuff of legends, and this is the kind of scent we're talking about here. This is for the collectors out there, the people that enjoy something a little more challenging or daring. It's not for everybody. So that is basically what I think about this fragrance. And it may get discontinued in the near future. I think Sephora, even on their Canadian website, this one's not even listed, but the new one for the women is listed. So I don't know if they pulled it off store shelves. I don't even have a Sephora in my hometown, but it seems like it's already dying a very slow death. So let's get into the goddamn review, because this thing is a double sprayer, first of all. Again, I know that this fragrance, when you get it, it does have a little bit of air in the bottle, but look how much I've utilized. This is just for this Canadian winter. I've had this bottle. You guys know how long I've had this bottle for. I think 4 or 5 months. I've never put such a big dent in one season like this. So this may be backup bottle worthy for me, because look at that. And it's at a cheap price. Like, these discounters are getting it. Fragrance X has it for very cheap. So I might get an extra bottle. So this introduction... It makes me want to swear on my fragrance review. So if you have any kids, please turn it down, because I'm going to swear just a little bit here. God damn that opening. That opening, God damn, she's daring, challenging, and fucking fabulous. That's all I can say. Some people get it all. Petroleum, animalic qualities, smells like the guy that just worked on your car from Pep Boys. Whatever it is that you think this smells like, this introduction, it may not be for you. Yeah, you. I'm talking about you here, Mr. I Love Sauvage. It's the best cologne ever. Take a back seat, kid, because grown folks are talking here. Okay, beyond the jokes. Now that I lost 20,000 subs and there's like 30 of you hanging out and going, yeah, go Mark, yeah. This scent does... start off challenging. It is. And it's either a love or death for you on this one. Now, of course, there's going to be some people that are going to hate this introduction and are going to give this scent a chance and actually really enjoy the dry down. It really does smoothen out, of course, more into the dry down. And it's a beautiful scent from afar once it dries down quite a bit, personally. But for me, what do I get? Well, it opens kind of like with a petroleum gasoline like opening. Very interesting for me. Circa kind of like Dial's Fahrenheit. It has a little bit of that antiseptic quality, shoe polish, petrol like opening. Very daring, different, and unique. Something that you would actually get from a niche release. Not a designer release. Definitely not. These two little nuggets, to me, these daring little nuggets they come from the cypress, and I'm going to explain myself a little bit more. It comes from the cypress and birch tar. Birch tar in this fragrance, very mildly used in my personal opinion. There's like a little pinch of it. This is actually the first time I smell birch tar in a designer release. And birch tar, if you know anything about birch tar, it's used to mimic the scent of course, leather, smoky leather, smokiness of the leather. Birch tar really gives you a lot of that, and it's very daring note and used in a lot of niche fragrances. This has very, very minimum part of birch tar in this fragrance, but just enough to give it a little bit of a daring feel to the fragrance. Now, once that boldness leaves from Absolute, and it'll take a bit, then the meat and potatoes kind of show itself, which will be more of a leathery, woody scent. That's basically in a nutshell what Gucci Guilty Absolute is. All about the woods and the leather. There's a bit of smoke from the birch tar, not as much as I'm accustomed to, right? I own quite a bit of fragrances that do utilize birch tar for their leather, and really smoky, smoky, smoky. This one, just a bit of smoke here, and the leather here makes many designer leathers, it puts it to shame, I'll be honest. This can go head to head with almost any niche leather-based scent, and that is quite a feat for a designer scent, because leathers are challenging and daring in the niche world, and this one can go toe-to-toe with any one of them. The one aspect I noticed with Gucci Guilty Absolute straight away, as per its note breakdown, this is going to be a very dry scent, and it will be throughout the scent. It will continue to be dry during the whole life of it. The dark vetiver starts showing itself more into the intro, and will take a bigger role more into the dry down. It reminds me of the vetiver utilized in Encre Noire, which also utilizes cypress. So there is a reason why these two fragrances have been compared, just because they utilize those two notes. I would say cypress, a different type of cypress in here. And of course the vetiver, even though it's a dark vetiver in this one, not as prominent, of course, as Encre Noire. I love how Gucci Guilty Absolute is so dry, it's uber masculine, it's dark, and it reminds me of the powerhouses from the late 70s to the early 80s. It has a slightly smoky accord, a dry woody, cedar from the cypress actually, that's what it smells like, and a medicinal touch. It's not niche quality. I hate saying that about some designers, but it's just a solid, daring designer release that took a step into territory that we haven't seen a designer go in a decade or more. So it's very well constructed, a very well built fragrance. It's just something we haven't smelt in a designer game in a while. This is a very, very solid release from Gucci. Now, the use of birch tar in here was utilized in here in a highly moderate use compared to many other niche leather offerings. Birch tar can get close to creosote, which explains actually the opening. So it kind of smells like a treated paint or shoe polish or even petrol. So that's where you're getting that. Some people are getting that petroleum smell or that shoe polish smell or even a treated paint smell. So it kind of smells like creosote. The leather in here is simply fantastic in this scent. Its use in this fragrance is right on the money for a leather-based scent, and it works so well with the other secondary notes. Now, Gucci Guilty Absolute also utilizes cypress, a wallop of cypress, to be quite honest. However, the first thing I noticed in this scent, it wasn't your typical cypress, and I know a lot of cypress-based scents, and the cypress profile here of the scent, I think it's the Nootka cypress, which blends well with, you guessed it, vetiver and patchouli, which are both in this fragrance. Now, Nootka cypress is a conifer that grows in my backyard. Well, not really my backyard. It grows in British Columbia and Canada here, and also in Alaska, so actually quite a ways from where I live in Ontario. The Nootka cypress gives the scent a warm, woody aspect with cedar-like quality. So a lot of people that say, hey, this has a lot of cedar in it, that's what you're smelling. And Nootka actually gives out a scent profile of gasoline or fuel-like aroma. So other people that smell that, there you go. There's your explanation. And the cypress, to be quite honest, well done, well blended, works well with the leather. It actually makes the leather way more daring. And the cypress is definitely your X factor in this fragrance. Really a great note to utilize in this one. Now, more into the deep dry down. It's more about the woods, less about the petroleum or that daring note that you're getting in the introduction. More of the greens, the patchouli comes out a little bit. However, it's more about the vetiver. You start losing some of the smoke here. The cypress, the vetiver uses will remind some of Encre Noire more into this dry down. Because they are both, of course, very dark scents, but this isn't as heavy of the cypress or vetiver in my mind. They're just part of the puzzle with Gucci Guilty Absolute. It is a simplistic fragrance. There's not much going on here. Quite linear, but more vetiver here in the dry down than, of course, up top. There is some dry woody aspects in this fragrance and some earthy qualities that do remind some users of Terre d'Hermès, which without the orange, of course, you'd be on point. Obviously, Tel Dalmas utilizes ISO Super. There's cedar, there's vetiver in there, and of course, this has a little bit of course, the cedar-like smell from the cypress, and of course, the vetiver. So it is a great scent that it's compared to. First of all, if you like Tel Dalmas, you like Encre Noire, this might be your thing, especially if you like leathers. Overall, an old idea of a fragrance. This is not new, which kind of was lost in the designer game. This thing has been, I can't even remember on top of my head a fragrance that was built like this way in the designer game. And Gucci brought that kind of flavor back into our designer game flawlessly. I really think this was well constructed, and those are things that I speak about with really higher end fragrances, about depth, complexity, and of course they're high quality, and this one has that quality. So recommended age for this fragrance, man, of course I feel like this fragrance is more for the mature man. You're looking at 25 and up. Again, it all depends on your taste. You like leathers, you like woods, you like vetiver, you're gonna like this even though you're 18. But if you're looking for something a little more mature, I could see this as signature scent for an older guy. Really, really do. 25 plus though. Fragrances that it's reminding me of, nothing really on top of my head. However, Encre Noire and Tel Dalmas are two that I mentioned in this review. Best time to wear this fragrance is a nighttime fragrance. I don't see it as really a signature scent, but really more of a nighttime scent. Seasons, fall and winter, and trust me, in these Canadian winters, she was good. Development, linear, average, or complex. I'm gonna put it as average. There is some movement, but fairly linear. So more towards average to linear, not really that complex. Work appropriate? No, not really. Signature scent worthy? No, not really either. Both really something that I wouldn't recommend. Again, you can do whatever you really want to do. But really a great scent. Let's get into my rating system. Let's see what this thing does. So projection, 6 bottles out of 10. Fairly above average. This is one thing that I noticed with Gucci Guilty Absolute is when I first wore it, I was like, ooh, this thing's gonna be a beast, but it really did tone down quite a bit. So it's above average. Longevity, 8 bottles out of 10. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking to 7 to 9 hours on my skin. This one gives me 7 to 10 hours. So very good as far as the longevity, a little less on the projection. Compliment factor, this is where this thing dies. 2 bottles out of 10. And it all depends, right? I've worn this quite a bit. As you can see, the proof's in the pudding. And yeah, just a lot of people just don't like this. Again, if that's what you're looking for me, this is a guilty, no pun intended, but a guilty pleasure of mine. I absolutely love this thing. I wear it quite a bit, especially this first season. Good one. Compliment factor, not too good, 2 out of 10. Uniqueness, 9 bottles out of 10. Again, I can't think on top of my head in the past 20 years, in this year 2000, do I think of any designer fragrance that really has utilized this type of mesh at this high quality? No, 9. Pricing versus what you get, 10. This is actually one of the rare Gucci's that I would say you can buy it for retail and you'd get your money's worth. Versatility, 5 bottles out of 10. Takes a little hit about versatility. Again, this is, I think, more of a piece for yourself than anything else. Again, really meant for collectors out there like myself. Really just a price piece that you can wear from time to time. That goes to smell, 10 bottles out of 10. Really simplistic, but done so well. And that goes to an overall score. Gucci Guilty Absolute. I was really going back and forth on what I would be rating this. I knew it was a high score, but at the end of the game, 10 years from now, am I going to still be wearing this? That might be a yes. And 10 years from now, this might be one of my prized possessions in the designer game? That answer may be yes. So to that, this is a 10 bottles out of 10 for me for Gucci Guilty Absolute. Welcome to the Perfect 10 Club. I think you're the first Gooch to make it. Maybe I'm wrong. Gucci put on 1, did very well too, and so did 2. So I might be biting my tongue on that, but really a great release from the House of Gucci. Now, buy, try, or pass, you already know. For me, highly recommended buy. If you got the same taste as yours truly, go for it. If this sounds, again, I've given you guys a fair warning to the ones that like Sauvage and Bleu de Chanel and want to really stay in the times. This is not something for you. This is something for the later generation or collectors. Overall, Gucci Guilty Absolute is simply a well-made scent. The note breakdown is very basic, and what it's supposed to be doing, it does it. Gucci did an excellent job here, and at the moment, this is my favorite post-Tom Ford release of the brand. It truly shines in these Canadian winters. Just truly embrace this fragrance. I mean, it just works so well in this Canadian winter. This won't sell like hotcakes. I already know this, and this fragrance won't be for everyone. But for the ones that love it and understand why I rated it so high, I want to thank all of you that have watched this fragrance review on Gucci Guilty Absolute. I really hope you enjoyed it. And as always, please comment below the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, if you don't agree with my rating, you don't agree with this scent, I'd love to hear your take down below. I know a lot of people, this is a polarizing scent, and the community's kind of, I would say 70% hate it, 30% love it. So it's going to be very interesting comments below to read. But for me personally, this was a gem from day one, and it hasn't stopped. The train has just been continuing to be pushing, and I'm just looking at this bottle kind of scared that, hey, if I got a whole fall and winter next year, how low is this bottle gonna go? So I just want to thank everybody for watching, and as always, please remember, great or poor fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thanks for watching, guys.